How did I do? Asked Fu with Vergil giving her small smile.
You did well. You're very fast. It works well with your way of fighting. Still, you rely on it too much, and need to get stronger by fighting without relying on mostly one-hit strikes. There may come a time when you must fight out in the open and your enemy has the endurance or the armor needed to take the abuse of your strikes, answered Vergil with Fu looking a bit down at hearing that. So I stink, replied Fu with Vergil shaking his head. No, when I said you were doing well, I really do believe you did well, and just need to work more on your weaknesses so they don't become a problem in the future. We all have weaknesses, Fu, and we work on them so they don't become a weakness when facing such strong opponents like the Akatsuki, answered Vergil with Fu brightening up at hearing this.
So I just need to improve in my overall taijutsu and endurance, right? Asked Fu with Vergil nodding.
It also wouldn't hurt to have some powerful jutsus in your arsenal in the off chance you needed to strike from a distance. Some enemies are at their strongest when fighting long range, mid-range, or short range, with each possessing their own strength and weaknesses. Depending on your enemies, you will know just how to counter their movements, and eventually defeat them. Know your enemy, and you will defeat your enemy, replied Vergil with Fu soaking up this information like a sponge. I understand, came Fu's reply while the half-devil smirked. Good, now let's get something to eat, said Vergil with Fu's stomach roaring like a bear for food while Fu looked sheepish.
Vergil just smirked further and let out an amused chuckle.
Water country sometime later. Vergil walked through the war-torn country with his senses on full alert for any possible enemy or the ally that was to meet him. He could feel the bloodlust in the air. Tensions were mounting, and anyone feeling it could be put on edge by the sensation of being drawn to battle. The half-devil had spent the entire week before the start of this mission with those close to him, training them to get stronger, and relaxing on other occasions when time permitted it. Even Tsunade, in a rare moment in his life, had decided to join him for some downtime and even got a poker game going with Vergil, Anko, Yugito, and herself. Anko had tried to convince the others to make it strip poker, but Vergil reminded her of the last time that happened, and the special Junin looked sheepish since she lost big time against Vergil since her favorite trench coat had been wagered that day. She had yet to get it back in another game. To make long story short, when the game was over, Vergil won quite a sum of cash from Tsunade, much to the Hokage's ire, a free subscription to Cats Monthly from Yugito, and a one-day all-you-can-eat dango coupon from Anko. The special Junin was pleading with him before he left to let her have the coupon before it expired within days of his mission to Mist. Not one to be cruel. Well, not that cruel anyway. Vergil gave it back to Anko on the condition she owed him one, and would hold her to it. Anko's response. A huge passionate kiss on the lips and her tongue down his throat. Oh yeah, she would definitely keep up her end of things. The heavens above praise you, came a voice in the shadows with Vergil stopping. And the devil cries and curses me, replied Vergil before a voluptuous woman with long flowing red hair in a tight shinobi uniform appeared from the shadows.
Namikaze, Vergil, I presume? Asked the woman while Vergil nodded.
You presume right if your name is Terumi May, countered Vergil with the woman letting a smile grace her face.
You also presume correct. Follow me. We have little time, answered May with Vergil nodding, since he had been given a detailed report about the situation here by Jiraiya before leaving for this mission.
You are planning to move against the Mizukage soon from what I've been told. It will not be easy given his power, said Vergil with May nodding, and was not surprised he knew about their plan to attack Mist being at hand. Jiraiya of the Sannin did have an extensive spy network after all. Which is why Konoha has sent you to help us in exchange for a future alliance against the Akatsuki organization. Something I know we will gladly do once things stabilize here after the Mizukage is taken down, replied May with Vergil nodding. So tell me your plan and don't leave out a single detail when it comes to storming Mist, said Vergil after they entered the rebel camp and to the planning tent with many of the rebel mist shinobi eyeing him intently.
We know few are truly loyal to the Mizukage. The only reason most of his forces even follow him is out of fear. If we can show that the Mizukage can be defeated, they will surrender to us, and even turn on those that are loyal to the man. Our forces shall attack on 2 fronts where our spies in Mist have told us their forces are the thinnest, and cause the needed distraction for you to enter from this point where the majority of them are positioned. Since we'll be attacking from these 2 places, the enemy will split up and move to repel us with little opposition to make your way to the Mizukage, explained May with Vergil nodding.
It's a bit risky considering you could be overwhelmed on either side if you're not careful and this blows up in our faces. If one side is overwhelmed, the remaining mist shinobi could move to take down the other half of your army, and there is always a chance that the Mizukage himself will join the fight before I even get to him, explained Vergil with many around him nodding in agreement. This was all about timing.
Which is why we only get 1 shot at this, replied May with Vergil nodding.
That's all we need, answered Vergil while looking at the picture of his target that was the Mizukage by the name of Yagura.
Yagura was a Jinchuriki like him, but unlike Vergil, this man was a monster that cared for nothing in regards to the people he ruled over. This man killed friend and foe alike with no tears shed over his own actions. That was where Vergil drew the line between himself and Yagura when compared to him. Vergil may kill his enemies in a vicious and possibly monstrous fashion, but the half-devil never betrayed those loyal or close to him.
Vergil would enjoy taking the man's head off. Missed sometime later. The sound of battle echoed throughout the village, as the shinobi under the Jinchuriki for a Mizukage repelled the enemy invasion of rebels that dared to defy their ruler. Yagura himself watched from the Mizukage tower, his eyes full of fury and hatred for the fools that dared to challenge him. This was his village, his property, and no one was going to take what was his to command.
Or at least, that was what his current state of mind was centered around. Yagura had not always been like this. He had once been a man that didn't act like a tyrant, and his Biju was actually speaking to him about how to make things better in Mist. All of this changed, however, as a man with a spiraling orange mask with 1 eye hole appeared with a Sharingan eye behind it, and felt the power of the dojutsu turn him into something he was not.
A heartless monster and the puppet of a much bigger monster. His thoughts that were still his own on the matter left when Yagura saw something, or rather someone, heading towards the Mizukage tower. This person was slicing through Mist shinobi left and right without hesitation with his sword that the Mizukage could sense was not a normal weapon. The Biju in him shook in fear, knowing what that sword, and possibly this person was. However, the masked figure that turned Yagura into what he is now had also made sure the Biju in him did not help its vessel unless drawn into a battle.
Like he would soon be now. Identify yourself, Yagura called out to the silver-haired swordsman standing in front of the tower itself.
Namikaze Vergil, are you Yagura the Mizukage of Mist? Asked Vergil with Yagura snarling at him.
I am, and I know who you are too, Konoha, shinobi. Once I crush these rebels here, I will redirect my effort on your village. I will show your people and their bloodlings the same ruthless aggression I showed the bloodline users of Water Country, answered Yagura, while leaping down from his position on the tower, and charged with his staff pole with an uneven hook at one end in his hands. How can you do that when you are dead? Asked Vergil, as he moved at incredible speed with Yagura matching it, and the two clashing violently with their respected weapons.
I will not be beaten. I am power. I am wrath. I am the rage of all Jinchuriki. I am the coming of the tide against those that made my life miserable. Exclaimed Yagura while trying to slice Vergil's head off with the uneven hook, but the half-devil dodged it, and gracefully leapt over the follow-up swing. No, you are a mockery of what it means to be a leader. You are not worthy of being the Mizukage of Mist, Vergil shot back, as he countered every strike, dodged every move, and making Yagura extremely angry. Die, 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 exclaimed Yagura with his Biju's chakra covering him. You first, Vergil countered, as his right arm changed into a demonic one, and an image of a demonic ghostly visage above him manifested with its right arm also cocked back to throw a massive punch. What? Exclaimed Yagura in shock before raising his staff up to block the punch, but it broke under the impact, and hit him dead on with the power behind the punch sending him into a nearby building. Moments later, the ground around Vergil shook, and the massive form of the three tails appeared in front of him with half of Yagura's body from the waist up revealed for all to see. Vergil stared at the three-tailed Biju, sensing something was off about the creature, as Kyuubi told him something was off about the demonic tortoise, and sensed something foul at work. Vergil mentally nodded and thanked the fox for the info since he was sure the same foul influence on the Biju was also on Yagura himself. The problem now was how to destroy it without destroying Yagura. Even that were the case, there was no telling how mentally stable the man would be, and if the rebels would even take such a factor into consideration upon capture. Would they kill him? Imprison him? You will fall before me, yelled Yagura with his voice for all to hear and gave pause to the fighting around him. I'm sorry Yagura, I truly am. I came here to slay a tyrant. Now I find myself cutting the strings off what will most likely be a tormented puppet if freed and left alive to come to terms with the horrors you've done, replied Vergil while spinning Yamato around him while walking towards Yagura's transformed stated. Die, sonic roar, yelled Yagura with the Biju gathering its chakra and letting loose a roar that created a sonic wave of destruction.
Channeling demonic energy into Yamato, the half-devil Namikaze horizontally launched his own invisible attack, and weakened Yagura's own so the damage around them would not be beyond repair. Yagura snarled at him, as did the beast he was connected to, and it was clear neither one expected Vergil to survive. The Namikaze calmly walked towards the Jinchuriki, who had clearly been twisted by a shadowy third party, and Kyuubi once more told him that only that of a Sharingan like Uchiha Madara could have caused this. Vergil could tell the fox wasn't lying about that. Kyuubi had more than enough horrible experiences regarding the Sharingan to last him a lifetime.
While you may not believe it now Yagura, you will be forgiven when crossing over to the afterlife, replied Vergil. He leapt into the air towards Yagura with the three tails tried to swat him away. Vergil dodged left, right again, and another left before landing on top of the Biju's head right in front of Yagura. The man's strength in this state was also his weakness, and even more now without the staff to hold onto to defend himself from close encounters. As the Namikaze moved towards him, Yagura knew his time in this world was coming to an end, and felt only a slight tap along the neck like someone had briefly touched him before Vergil was behind the Mizukage. And it was in those last final moments of his life that Yagura regained control of himself when Vergil was just about to fully sheath his weapon. Thank you Namikaze-sama. I have been a puppet of another for so long. I never wanted all of this to happen to Mist. Tell them that I'm sorry. Tell them to beware of the masked man with the Sharingan eye and his master, said Yagura with tears running down his face while looking up at the sky to see the sun starting to shine from the thinning clouds above. I'll let them know. This world will not see you as a tyrant Yagura. Of that, I will make sure of before the end of my days, answered Vergil before the clink of his sword being fully encased in the sheath was heard.
And Yagura's head fell from his body.
Vergil quickly leapt off the massive Biju's body, which roared in fury before the chakra-manifested creature exploded with its energy exploding upward before forming into a simple ball that represented its very soul. The color of it was shimmering blue and looked like a simple ball of water. It floated over to Vergil, who held it in his hand, and absorbed it into himself before commanding it to form into a weapon. In an instant, it obeyed him by spiraling around him, and then materializing into a trident that he spun around before pointing it at the mist shinobi below him. Shooting water from the weapon, he mentally commanded it to restrain and subdue the enemy before things spiraled out of control. The water split out like tentacles, wrapping around every mist shinobi in the village, and forced them all to their knees. Leaping down from the building he was on, Vergil walked over to Mei, who was covered in blood, and yet still had a sense of beauty all the same.
"Thank you for your help in defeat Yagura," said Mei with Vergil nodding, though she could tell it was a victory he did not want.
"While I do appreciate your thanks for the kill, the man was never the enemy, and was the pawn of another," replied Vergil, which shocked Mei, and it was clear she didn't know that.
"What do you mean?" asked Mei before Vergil told him what he sensed, and what the Mizukage confessed to him within seconds of his death.
In the end he was sorry for what happened to Mist under his rule. Yagura was no tyrant like we all believed him to be, but just a tormented man, and puppet to a cruel puppeteer lurking in the shadows. "Do not hold what happened and what he did against him," said Vergil, as he saw Mei nod in understanding, and would do her best to make sure Yagura's legacy was not tainted like this third party wanted.
"And the trident you now carry?" asked Mei, with Vergil smirking, while looking at the mist shinobi still bound by the water tentacles it had unleashed.
"When I kill strong demons, I can take their souls, and turn them into weapons like this one after I defeated the Three Tails. I call this little number in my hands Poseidon. It has complete mastery over water that would make the Nadime's skills pale by comparison," explained Vergil with Mei's eyes widening. "So the rumors regarding what you faced and did in Snow Country are true," replied Mei with Vergil nodding.
"Cerberus was the reason behind Snow Country's harsher winters. After I defeated him, I took his soul, and his blessing in using the power he commanded," answered Vergil with Mei's eyes flashing with a sense of something aside from being extremely impressed by him.
"Mei-sama, seeing as the Mizukage is no more, I think it's only fitting you should take his place, and become the new Mizukage of Mist," said Ao, who had an eye patch on his face to cover up the fact he had the Byakugan eye behind it, and was eyeing Vergil cautiously during the talk the half-devil had with woman. "Thank you for suggesting that, Ao. Now please leave us alone for now, or else I'll kill you," replied Mei sweetly, and Ao started to sweat before he wisely retreated back. "Impressive. You already have the makings of a great cage," said Vergil with Mei letting out a giggle. "You flatter me. Since you are now my guest here in Mist, why don't you stay for a time before heading back to Konoha, and informing your Hokage of our victory?" asked Mei with Vergil smiling and nodding at her while she extended her hand to him. "It would be an honor. Mizukage-sama," answered Vergil before taking her hand and giving the back of it a kiss like any gentleman would. "Please, no need for titles. Just call me Mei from here on out," replied Mei while feeling flattered that such a handsome young man would be this way around her.
"As you wish, Mei-chan," answered Vergil with Mei letting out another giggle at his choice for a suffix, and called him a flatterer.
The red-haired woman thought this was going to be the start of a great alliance between Mist and Konoha with how things were already turning out. Perhaps if Mei played her cards right, she could get something more from this current situation. Omake Kiba's failed party. While Vergil was spending time with his girls and his godmother, Kiba was trying to spend time with those close to him too. He felt extremely jealous that Vergil was having all this success with mission, the fame, and hot women that wanted the Namikaze so damn badly. He had two sound kunoichi as slaves, two smoking hot Jinchuriki living with him, the crazy special Junin who wore little to the imagination once the trench coat was removed, and so many more popping up all over the place. And what did Kiba have to show for himself? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He was still a genin, still a virgin, and still living with his mom. Granted the last one was a given, but still. Kiba was an adult now in the village, and as an adult he should be doing adult-like things. Like mounting hot woman or drinking at a bar before mounting a hot woman to become a man. So with that in mind, Kiba set out to take the guys out drinking at a bar, hoped to pick up a babe, or maybe two if he was lucky before leaving the guys to pay the tab while they were too drunk to realize he was gone. While that happened, Kiba planned to get it on at some girl's place with one or two of them, and in the morning be called a hot stud while his manly greatness was known throughout the village.
Ow! My aching head, said Kiba as he tried to move his body, but found himself unable to do that and saw the reason why.
His arms were tied to the bed. He looked around and saw clothing on the floor that was his and some girl he had no doubt picked up last night. His underwear was down to his knees, and if were to look in the mirror, Kiba would see his neck had a dog collar on it. Now, while this may appear to be a good thing in terms of Kiba getting laid by a hot woman, who apparently had a thing for bondage, and dominating her lover, it wasn't. What Kiba didn't know was the guys had played a prank on their host that night at the bar after Vergil had come in and overheard the Inuzuka complaining about how his Hyuga of a teammate was with the Namikaze. That if he had been in Vergil's position with the once shy Hinata wanting him, he would have plowed the girl into next week, and would have knocked her up within the month before doing the same to the other house sluts he had. Kiba didn't know Vergil was in the bar at the time on account of being too drunk to see straight, nor did he know that the Namikaze heard everything he slurred out of his mouth, or his fellow comrades had seen what Kiba did not. So they each covertly left the Inuzuka using some lame excuse to individually seek out the Namikaze and inform him that they did not agree with the Inuzuka's opinion.
Vergil's response to them were 2 words. Prove it. And so they did. Shikamaru, being among Kiba's drinking buddies, had touched the least amount of sake among the group, and had acquired the Inuzuka's wallet. After emptying out the contents of cash in the genin's wallet, which was quite a sum saved for this very occasion it would seem, the group had found a female bar hopper looking to make some extra cash by being some guy's escort. But the guy was out like a light, and spent all his money on booze. So Vergil motioned for her to come to him to ensure Kiba's drinking buddies weren't pinned on this soon-to-be incident of humiliation the Inuzuka was about to endure. Vergil explained the situation himself to the woman, and how he wished things to proceed, so the eyewitnesses at the bar would not be able to say it was anyone else when asked should an investigation arise from this. Half of Kiba's fat wad of cash was spent on the booze his friends were drinking, and the other was spent on the woman for this little prank.
Is this it? It's not much. I'm not some cheap hooker. I don't think you are one. Besides, you won't be screwing him. Just put him in a position where he can't show his face around Konoha for a while. Are you sure? Won't he get you back for this once he's freed? How can he come after me if you don't tell him who paid you? Touché. Yeah, I'm the man, said Kiba to himself. Hardly, replied the woman coming out of the bathroom fully dressed and ready to leave the Inuzuka in his present state. Hey, where are you going? Untie me, exclaimed Kiba, as he tried to get free, and saw the woman scoff at him.
You're a shinobi. Untie yourself. Oh, I almost forgot, replied the woman, as she went to the nightstand by the bed, opened it up, and pulled out a remote.
What's that? What does that do? Asked Kiba fearfully while the woman grinned almost evilly at him. Let's just say there will be some momentary discomfort, answered the woman before she put it down and took out some duct tape before taping the Inuzuka's mouth shut. Scooped. SKSHDKs KKSDHJS. Exclaimed Kiba through the duct tape before the woman gave his forehead a nice pat and picked up the remote. Have fun playing with yourself, said the woman before activating the power button with the Inuzuka crying out through the duct tape at the feeling of something in a private place where he did not want to feel anything there.
TKS Kus, exclaimed Kiba while the woman just laughed. Oh, this isn't the worst part either. Don't you recognize this room? This room belongs to your sister, said the woman before cranking up the level on the remote.
Ox, LDJSHD, exclaimed Kiba, as he struggled even more knowing it would get worse if his sister, or worse his mother saw him like this. Maybe next time you shouldn't demean women while drinking so much. Bye bye baka, said the woman while walking out of the room with Kiba starting to panic when he felt the object currently vibrating in that place making a part of him rise against his will. Please Cammy, if you are a guy, let me get out of this without my mother, or sister finding me here, prayed Kiba while trying to figure out how to get out of this. Unfortunately for Kiba, what happened next in regards to his situation, many would come to believe that Cammy was in fact a woman. For within mere moments of that woman, who was responsible for putting him in this rather unique situation, was gone. Did Kiba's sister Inuzuka Hana walked into the room, and saw her little brother in this position. However, rather than do the natural reaction of freaking out, calling him a disgusting pervert, and then beat the crap out of him in this vulnerable state he was in, she just laughed. Hannah just laughed at him before an evil idea popped into her head and quickly found the camera she got last month for her birthday. "Say doggy treat Kiba," exclaimed Hannah, as she began taking picture after picture of her little brother, and ignoring his pleas for help, currently not understandable thanks to the duct tape on his mouth. And it didn't stop there either. After Hannah stopped taking pictures for a second, she had the idea to doodle different things all over face, his chest, and went back to taking more pictures that would basically continue to assist in emasculating Kiba further. This wasn't how things were supposed to happen, thought Kiba, as he heard his sister laughing while taking pictures of his humiliation, and then she left to leave him there. "You went above and beyond my plan to humiliate him," said Vergil a few blocks from the Inuzuka clan home, with Hannah stopping to face him with a smirk on her face. "Yeah, well, I owe him one for stealing my favorite doll and then pinning the blame on his dog when I got it back all chewed up. Serves him right if you ask me," exclaimed Hannah with a righteous look in her eyes filled with fire. "Calculated revenge against a little brother, thy name is Big Sister," replied Vergil while being handed the photos of Kiba's humiliation. "I take it you will let these pictures out right away to the general public?" asked Hannah with a smirk appearing on Vergil's face. "And I should pick you up for our date tonight around 5 p.m. sharp," countered Vergil with Hannah smirking back.
"It's a date," answered Hannah before walking away with a sway to her hips.
"And Shikamaru says women are troublesome," said Vergil to himself while looking at the means to put Kiba in his place in his hands.
Elsewhere.
"Isn't this great, son? We're play shogi, your mother doesn't know where we are, and there is a nice bunch of clouds in the sky," said Nara Shikaku from the secret location on the roof of the clan home where he and his son were spending their day getting away from doing chores the wife mother had given them. "Achoo!" exclaimed Shikamaru from sneezing loudly. "Someone must be talking about you," chuckled Shikaku before he felt a cold shiver run down his spine and saw Shikamaru looking behind him in fear. "I was wondering where the two of you went off to after I gave out chores that needed to be completed. Honestly, I must thank whoever was talking about my lazy son for making him sneeze, and leading me to him along with his lazy father that is my husband," said one Nara Yoshino holding a frying pan in her hands while her husband and son were both shivering in fear. "Now, honey, be reasonable. The amount of chores you gave were massive. I may have a great mind for thinking things out, but I don't have stamina to do what you're asking me to do. I'm not an Uzumaki and I can't produce an army of shadow clones," exclaimed Shikaku with Yoshino growling at him. "Oh, you will have stamina after I am done whipping you into shape," said Yoshino with Shikaku laughing nervously while their son did the same. "Run!" exclaimed Shikamaru, but it was too late, as his mother had smacked both Nara males in the back of the head when they tried to run, and proceeded to drag them into the house. "As punishment for ditching your chores, we are going to cuddle tonight, Shikaku-kun, and this time, there will be no safety word," replied Yoshino with Shikaku going pale in the face and struggling for dear life. "No," yelled Shikaku while frantically trying to get away, but to no avail, and couldn't match his wife's sudden superior power. "And as for you, Shikamaru-kun, I'm going to dress you up in some cute clothes I have that I wanted you to wear to impress some nice girls your age. I think I'll even take a few pictures to preserve the memory for later to remind myself of just how cute you look in them," said Yoshino to her son, who was now imitating his father perfectly with his face going albino white, and clawing at the roof to resist being dragged into the house. "No," yelled Shikamaru with both Nara males now desperately trying to get away from the woman and her punishment she prepared for both of them. Indeed, women were troublesome, just not to Namikaze Vergil. The lucky bastard. Chapter 11 True Enemy Revealed. Namikaze Vergil was in his office meant for the clan head to conduct business within his home regarding its future. A place where paperwork needed to be looked, written, stamped, approved, and everything else surrounding the infinite bureaucracy needed to run it. Of course Vergil wasn't exactly doing paperwork per se. His shadow clone was doing it barely 3 feet from him. At the moment, the real Namikaze Vergil was reading a rather colorful correspondence he got from one Terumi May. Though the term correspondence seemed to be polite on how to describe it, as the message itself from the new Mizukage of 3 long years had basically written him was a rather erotic love letter. The red-haired woman had basically told Vergil how she was looking forward to seeing him again and all the intimate things they would doing alone in the privacy of the Mizukage Tower, if not her own home. Got to give the woman credit. Her ideas could give Jiraiya a run for his money in terms of writing skill, thought Vergil with a smirk on his face. Another love letter? Asked Kin with a hint of amusement while bringing him a tray of food. What makes you think it's another love letter? Asked Vergil while Kin now smirking this time. Because the spring daimyo Koyuki sent you one with perfume on it not that long ago just like this one. That and the lipstick on the bottom of the letter and the picture of the Mizukage in a rather flirtatious pose gives it away, answered Kin while Vergil made a noise. It was true. These past 3 years had been very interesting for Vergil to say the least in terms of adventure and excitement. For one, Vergil put the Raikage of Kumo in his place when the jerk demanded Yugito back or else he would unleash all-out war on Konoha. Vergil's response. A challenge one-on-one. Just the two of them. Their villages, which were represented by both combatants, would be the place Yugito would call home, and the losing side could not oppose it. At first, the Raikage turned down the offer since war seemed to be so much easier at this point. But when he found out the challenger was the Yondaime Hokage's son of all people, he accepted the challenge, and the two battled it out in neutral territory with the Fire Daimyo and Lightning Daimyo present.
In the end, he had some nasty scars on his muscled torso, even with his lightning armor protecting him from some of Vergil's sword strikes. I was just lucky he didn't lose more since Vergil was very tempted to slice off one if not all of the Raikage's limbs to send Kumo a message. Following the one-on-one battle, A was told about the Akatsuki, and if he did care about his brother B, then the man wouldn't treat him like a damn weapon. After that, Vergil's relationship with the women in his life grew. Kin, Tayuya, Hinata, and the others were growing into something wonderful. It made him feel alive. They had given him purpose to wield a sword outside of just himself, and it felt damn good doing it for that reason. Fair enough. And yes, I guess it is another love letter, said Vergil with Kin sighing. Honestly, Vergil-sama, how can you attract so many women to you is beyond me, said Kin with Vergil giving her a mischievous look.
Are you complaining now, Kin? You didn't mind last night with Tayuya, Hinata, and the others, remarked Vergil with Kin blushing looking away. That's different, protested Kin while Vergil raised an eyebrow and got out of his chair to walk over to her.
Oh, in what way? Asked Vergil with Kin blushing further and fidgeting. Well, it's just, we are all so close and, said Kin, and tried to explain things to him while he leaned down to look at his now nervous maid.
That we are close. In fact, I think the two of us need to be even closer, said Vergil in a husky tone, and it made Kin's face go full on cherry red.
Oh my, thought Kin before he kissed her passionately.
It was long before her clothing had fallen onto the ground and she was being taken on his nearby couch with the shadow clone looking at the two on occasion. Well, at least doing this paperwork isn't boring anymore, thought the shadow clone of Vergil while hearing the two go at it.
Hokage Tower sometime later.
The Akatsuki have finally decided to make their move, said Jiraiya with Tsunade now frowning at the news Jiraiya gave her. You're sure? With Itachi dead, we can't monitor their actions like before, questioned Tsunade with Jiraiya. Even without Itachi, my spies can still monitor their movements. Most of their members aren't exactly what you call discreet in hiding themselves. Pain and Conan are in aim running the place. The Kakuzu and Hidan have been running all over the place for the organization. One collecting bounties to finance the organization and the other killing for the glory of his Jashin god. Sasori and Deidara are more tricky since they actually try to stay hidden. Well, Sasori does. Deidara not so much, but even he knows when to keep himself hidden after causing a mess, answered Jiraiya with Tsunade frowning.